Rookie tight end Eli Stowers is the perfect prospect to unlock and elevate Jaylen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles passing offense.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That is Keith Sanchez. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. On today's episode, we're breaking down NFL rookies, perfect prospect pairings. So we're going to take those prospects and those team pairing fits and tell you which ones we really enjoyed the most. Keith, let's get into it, man. Keith, I want to kick it to you. When you look at the 2026 NFL Draft, it's over. This is we were finishing up our recap of it. What was a perfect prospect to team pairing that you really loved?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Eli Stowers to the Philadelphia Eagles, DP. And I'm trying not to do the top premier names, right? So I went after some ones that could be what they call sneaky good, right? Sneaky good situations. And I look at Eli Stowers with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think this one has an opportunity, a matchup to be explosive, right? If you work on Jaylen Hurts and just who he is as a quarterback and what people believe him to be or not be, right? Depending on how you look at the conversation. I think giving him an athletic middle of the field player like an Eli Stowers, a young guy that can run, can be really fun. And we know that this offense can be creative when it wants to be, right? And so I look at different type of tight end screens, right? Tunnel screens that you could potentially run with Eli Stowers and then let him get upfield. I think those things are available. Then also coming off of play action, right? When you talk about those hard boot action, and then either, he can be in the flat as a dump off guy. He's a guy that can convert that 2-yard catch, right, to a 20-yard gain. And then now it looks different, right? And that's an explosive play. And especially with the Philadelphia Eagles, I think so much of the conversation last year, DP, was lack of explosive plays, right? You want more explosive players, but go get some explosive players, right? Like just continue to pound on that. And I think Eli Stowers, DP, with the Philadelphia Eagles, has the opportunity to really do some good things and also provide a different element.
No, 100%. I think, I love how Howie Roseman, to me, one of the top drafters and GMs in the NFL, because, all right, we know we're trading. It's a foregone conclusion that A.J. Brown's getting traded. What do? We go and we trade for Dontaviyon Wicks. We have Devonta Smith, who will be our central wide receiver 1. And then we trade up while the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the phone with Makai Lemon to go get Makai Lemon, right? But also the tight end spot. Dallas Goedert is still a good tight end, but he gives you nothing virtually after the catch, right, Keith? So then what do? You say, you know what? Let's plan ahead for this, and let's go get an Eli Stowers who's going to step in and give us that yak ability. Again, like you talked about, it creating the explosive. Coming out because I just, on yesterday's episode, Keith, or not yesterday's, it was Wednesday's episode, I think it was. Wednesday's episode, Keith, I talked about I started to show off with the Kenyon Sadiq, Mason Taylor conversation for the Jets. Like, hey, how do we utilize both of these guys? I said 12 personnel, right? Because of the fact that Kenyon Sadiq is such a great blocker, him and Mason Taylor can share the field at the same time. Is Stowers is that run blocker of that elk of run blocker cut from that cloth of Kenyon Sadiq? No, but you can still come out in some 12, make him the H-back, and start making him the move tight end. I always go back to it, Keith. When the New England Patriots had the Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski situation, they took the league by storm, right? And we haven't seen a team, and I wonder if that history is going to eventually come back. We haven't seen a team really try to dominate the league like that again, finding and investing in two totally like polar opposite at tight end, where I got the big run blocker, a guy who could do it all, the elite guy who's the complete player, and then I have the movement guy who we're going to come out in 12 and we're going to force you into base, right? And Aaron Hernandez can win against nickel corners and safeties. Eli Stowers can do the exact same type of stuff, Keith. So I'm excited. I like that you pulled Eli Stowers. I'm excited to see what that looks like for this Philadelphia Eagles offense, because, again, him and Makai Lemon in the middle of the field, he brings more verticality to the offense than Makai. Yep. I think that's going to help Jaylen Hurts and just get that connection going. And again, if you want to load the box up, I could throw it over the top of your head to a big 4'5" athlete who didn't he jump like 45 inches in the vert?
40 something, yeah. And that's what I'm talking about, right? Because you get those linebackers and those safeties that from a matchup standpoint, that's their responsibility, right? If they're playing man, but they're looking in the backfield, looking at who? Saquon Barkley, which I would be looking at him too, right? Making sure that he doesn't get the football. But half a step late, and Eli Stowers has the opportunity that if you a half second late or you got a full step as a linebacker for a half step, that's a wrap, right? Like now I'm open. And I think you'd be able to capitalize on that. So I think this could potentially be a very important selection.
No, 100%. I think great job by Howie Roseman, Keith. I'm going to go in my neck of the woods, the Carolina Panthers, Keith. And I love the fit of Lee Hunter, big defensive tackle, nose tackle at Texas Tech, to the Carolina Panthers. This is a defense that took a big step forward in 2025, 2024. They ended the season with allowing over 500. I think that it was a record. I think they hit like 546 or something like that in points allowed for the season. And a lot of it was due to the fact that they couldn't get off the field on third downs. They couldn't stop opposing offenses from running the football. So you weren't in favorable third and longs and true pass rush sets, which at that time wouldn't have mattered anyway because they couldn't rush the passer either. Right. So last year they went and brought in Big Bobby Brown from the Rams. They got back Derrick Brown, who was coming off the injury in 2024. They had Ashawn Robinson. Then they went and drafted Nick Scourton and everything else. And this past offseason, they went and got Devin Lloyd at linebacker and signed, and some people view as an overpay. But hey, you got to pay to play in this situation. They went and got Jalen Phillips from the Eagles, who could be their number one pass rusher, right? Lee Hunter, the thing that they lost was Ashawn Robinson. He wanted out, and this was their best run defender on the defensive line. He was physical. He was angry. He got the ball head, the beard. He looked like a guy that should be at the door of a club. And if you got rowdy, he was tossing you in the dumpster. That's what Ashawn Robinson looked like. You know what I mean? Like he played that way. Physical dude, because a lot of people don't know, Keith, Derrick Brown wasn't a true nose tackle. That was Ashawn Robinson's job. They let Derrick Brown play more than 3-tech, 4-eye and everything like that.
I'm glad you explained that because I was going to ask you for the listeners to explain because I think to the average person be like, wait, they got a nose tackle already, right? Derrick Brown. So like, okay, is that redundant? Yeah. Right.
No, 100%. Yeah. Ashawn, he felt like Lee Hunter's going to feel like Ashawn rolling. When you look at in your division, we got Bucky Irvin in Tampa Bay. They're going to run the football. You got to deal with that man, the myth, the legend that is Bijan Robinson, who carries that Atlanta Falcons offense, and you know what he's going to bring to the table. And then you look at the Saints. They have both Alvin Kamara and Travis Etienne. So you know they're going to run the football with Kellen Moore's offense, right? To get you into some to load the box and go like single high, get you into middle of the field close. Well, then they could take their vertical shots, which Panther fans probably remember. Chris Olave torched him last year. You know what I mean? On the outside, down the sideline, he had success against J.C. Horn. Now you add in the Bryce Lance and the Jordan Tyson and Oscar Delp at tight end. It's like, yeah, we can't, we don't want to go to single high safety looks against this potential offense if they get going. So I think Lee Hunter, he brings the same type of mentality that Ashawn Robinson brought. Physicality. He plays with a high motor. We saw that at the Senior Bowl, Keith. Just when he wants to get in the backfield, it's not really an answer that you're going to have if you leave him one-on-one with a center, right? Like if you don't double team him, he's going to get back there. And that's in the run game. But also, Keith, he gives you some projection and some belief that he can collapse the pocket as a pass rusher as well if he can figure out that pad level. I think this was a perfect fit. It was a home run pick. I thought I looked at the Texans as a potential landing spot for him, but they got Caden McDonald with great value. Getting him, what was it, I think it was round 2 that the Panthers got him. If I'm not mistaken, I think he came off the board either round 2, the 49th pick. So he was still a top 50 pick. Great value for a guy that's going to really help this defense.
Yep. Well, DP, let's keep this conversation going. I'm liking where we're headed in this direction, right? And where we're going to head is for me, the AFC South. I'm going to bring up a pairing, right? A perfect pairing. It's going to be an AFC South team. It's 2 defenders, and they were back-to-back picks that I really like. Let's get into that coming up next.
Support for today's episode comes from Square, the system that helps fix one of the biggest headaches in running a business. Starting a business is exciting, but actually running it, that's where things can get complicated fast. Payments, inventory, staff, scheduling, online orders. It's a lot to manage. That's why Square brings everything into one connected system. Square helps you take payments, track sales, manage inventory, and keep your business running smoothly without juggling a bunch of disconnected tools. And that's what stands out to me. Square helps businesses feel more efficient, professional, and ready to grow and ready for growth. If you're starting a business or running one that deserves better tools, Square helps you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. Right now, you can get $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/lockedonnfl. That's SQUARE.com/GO/lockedonnfl. Run your business smarter with Square today. Don't forget to check out the Everyday Club for ad-free episodes and access to our group chat with me, Keith, and other listeners of the show. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedonnfldraft.supercast.com to join Keith. Talk more of the perfect prospect to team pairings post NFL draft. Keith, what's your next prospect? Well, it's like you got two prospects.
Yeah, I got two.
So let's talk about it.
Yep, I'm gonna go to the Indianapolis Colts DP, and perfect pairings I thought was one, getting CJ Allen, linebacker from Georgia, to put in the middle of this defense, right? I think it's been since they've had Darius Leonard playing at a high level, that they've had one of those sideline to sideline roamers that brings the physical intensity right in the middle of the field. And then following that up with another physical player in safety, AJ Halsey. Back-to-back picks, I think second and third round. I love this situation, especially for the Indianapolis Colts, right? They offensively established themselves and say, hey, we're going to run the football with Jonathan Taylor. We're going to be a physical football team. We're going to get downhill, right? Like that. That's what our offensive identity is, moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think defensively, they've had to establish identity, right? And they brought in pieces, right? They traded for Sauce Gardner last year. That didn't necessarily work. I think they feel like, hey, let's stop the run, right? Let's be physical, and then let's earn the right to rush the quarterback, and then we can play on the back end. But I think you need those pieces to where other teams aren't just returning a favor. Like, okay, cool, y'all ran the football on us, we're going to run the football on you, right? Like now you have two guys in the secondary that can stop the run. And I like these situations, bringing some physicality to the Indianapolis Colts, because and we know it, right? It was even when Peyton Manning was there, right? The Indianapolis Colts consistently had really good offenses and really good football teams, right? But they get into the playoffs, and it's a team that punches them in the mouth. It wasn't until the year that they had a good defense, right? That they played complementary defense with Bob Sanders and those boys, that they were able to win a Super Bowl. So I look at it from that perspective, DP, and I say this helped you become a more well-rounded team, to where every game, even if Daniel Jones is playing at a high level, whatever it may be, it doesn't have to be a shootout, right? Like we can win games by holding a team to 19 points, 20 points, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I love the CJ Allen pick because of the fact of everything you just said, plus the leadership aspect. Mm-hmm. They lost one of their locker room leaders in Zaire Franklin. They traded him away. I can't remember which team. Did he go to Philly? I can't remember which team he went to. Might have been Philly. But they traded him away, right? So you traded away one of your leaders in your defense and in your locker room, period. And you bring in a guy, CJ Allen, that can do very similar things from a leadership standpoint, but also bring that physicality, bring that aggressiveness. And then you talk about bringing the aggressiveness. AJ Halsey, out of Houston, this was a headhunter. Like if you caught the pass over the middle of the field, he's gonna take he was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the penalty. I'm gonna lay you out. You know what I mean? I'll take the penalty. I'll risk it. In the NFL, you don't get suspended for a half for laying people out. Like, you don't get that. You get hit with targeting. You might get fined, but you're going to get a 15-yard flag, and you're going to keep it pushing, right? So I think, but not only that, Keith, I always go back to I love how he developed as a turnover machine, taking the ball away, getting interceptions last year for LSU's defense, baiting quarterbacks. And in this division, when you have to deal with Trevor Lawrence, you have to deal with C.J. Stroud, and I'm blanking on the other quarterback for some reason in this division.
Cam Ward.
Yes, Cam Ward. Jesus Christ. Like, so you got Cam Ward as well. And you know that they went with, wide receiver, and they got some vets coming back like Calvin Ridley. You want to try and bait that young man into some throws, right, Keith? So I really like both of those perfect pairings, because at the end of the day, safety and pairing AJ Halsey, who's built like a linebacker himself with safety skills, he's going to play that strong. And they brought in Cam Bynum last year from the Minnesota Vikings, who could play that free spot. I really like that those moves on defense to get better in that regard. Keith, I'm gonna go to the Denver Broncos, Keith. I'm gonna go to the Denver Broncos, and I'm gonna go with Jonah Coleman, the stout running back. They got him in round 4. Right round, I had him. I think I had him like late 4, early 5th, just because we didn't have any athletic testing on him. But his skill set and his tape is good. They got him at pick 108, and I think this makes so much sense, Keith, because as you like, Sean Payton showed us, hey, I utilize both backs, right? I utilize both my backs and everything. They brought back J.K. Dobbins. You got R.J. Harvey, and R.J. Harvey is kind of that. He's not Alvin Kamara, but he uses him as a do-it-all type of player in this offense. And he's not like a guy that you want running a high amount of carries between the tackles. It's not really his game. You want to get him out in space and everything else. J.K. Dobbins, still a really talented runner and good player, and can be very productive, but unfortunately, he's going to get hurt. Like, it happens every season with him and everything. So bringing in a Jonah Coleman to kind of fill that role long term of J.K. Dobbins, and pairing both R.J. Harvey and Jonah Coleman together, I think makes a lot of sense. Coleman is patient. I love his footwork, and his vision, and his ability to set up blocks, and kind of play peekaboo, right? Jump in and out of lanes and manipulate the second level and then hit it, man. He had a big run against Ohio State for like 40, 50 yards. You saw that the burst was fine. The top end speed, he reached it quickly, and he ended up getting, walked down before he can convert that to a touchdown. But it was just the nuance of it all, that this is the type of plays that do translate to the NFL, of helping your offensive line set up advantageous blocking angles by your ability to manipulate those linebackers, make them attack a gap, let that guy get sealed off, and then you're able to replace him. I think that's a really, really good fit for him in Denver. And again, I mean, he may not play a lot this year because of J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey being there, but pairing those two young backs together, yeah, Sean Payton. And again, if Sean Payton makes the move, I trust it. If Sean Payton does it, I trust it.
Well, there's a couple things, right, with that situation. I think Jonah Coleman has an opportunity to get a decent amount of run, is because historically Sean Payton has always been a 2, 3, maybe even 4 running back guy, right? Like game by game. And obviously somebody lives in the New Orleans area. Like I've seen it for a very long time, right? He did it for almost 10, 15 years in New Orleans. The guy, and when you brought this up, the name that immediately came to mind, that I thought about body type and usage, and I thought about Sean Payton, Pierre Thomas. That's the guy they remind me of, right? That low center of gravity, kind of bounces off tackles. I could
physical.
Physical. I could put him in. He can, try to get him to catch the ball out of the backfield on a couple of little flare routes, swing routes, whatever that may be. And, you get what I'm saying? Like, just put him in space a little bit, let him kind of bowling ball bounce off of a guy or two. So, I think an underrated situation would be that if he can kind of play that role. And for Sean Payton, I think if you're a running back, you never really get and people have the discussion about Reggie Bush. I don't think Reggie Bush ever got full-time load, right? Like he always got put into a role because of who Sean Payton was, right? And I think even if I can't remember, but I'm even thinking about with Sean Payton coming back as a coordinator. I don't know. I'm trying to remember if he was there with the whole Julius Jones and Marion Barber combination, right? I think he just historically may have always been a 2-3 running back type of guy. Yeah. So if there's any place where you're like, okay, I may not be the feature guy, but I will get featured for games, right? Situationally, it'll be the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton.
Yeah, heck, if you think about, like, because we've seen how the impact he's had on Bo Nix. They have a ton of wide receiving or just receiving weapons overall, and I think they drafted a tight end too in this draft. I think Justin Jolie out of NC State, right? So adding another athlete to the tight end room and another potential pass catcher. You think about having the lead, right? Like, let's say you're playing in a high leverage game against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, and you get the lead in the fourth quarter, and you're able to run the football. RJ Harvey might not he's not built for that 6 minute fourth quarter trying to drain the clock and keep the chains moving type situation. He's not really built for that. But Jonah Coleman is another back that came to mind, Keith. I think my comp for him was Mike Davis, but you think, tying it back to a Denver Broncos, CJ Anderson, I think it was.
That's another one.
Payton.
Very similar body types too.
When they won 2015, when they won the Super Bowl, Payton wasn't like, I remember who was it? Was it Gary Kubiak was the head coach?
Yeah.
And they came into the season, they were like, yeah, Payton, we could let you run your offense and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it was terrible. Like, the offense looked absolutely terrible.
Remember what his arm was shot too.
Yeah, his arm was shot.
He couldn't even throw the football. Yeah, so they had to run the ball. Yep.
He was putting everything he had. His whole body was turning as he was throwing the football, right? So it was like, yeah, Payton, all right, we let you do your thing. We're going to run my offense. It was that wide zone power run game. And I can't remember. I think they played, was the Patriots in like a snow game. And CJ, he became almost an MVP of that offense that season because of the fact we can hand him off the rock 20 times and he's going to get us 120, 30 yards and get us 3, 4, even 5 yards per carry. And really, like, they just turned it into a boxing match, like a backyard brawl, and they slowed the game down, right? Like, it wasn't the, Demaryius Thomas and, when Payton first got there, where it was like, we're scoring 45 a game. It was like, no, we're going to shorten these games, get out of here with a win. We had an elite defense, things of that nature. And what do they have now, Keith? An elite defense. They got pass rush, they got corners, all that type of stuff. Now it's just, hey, getting a consistent power run game going. And yeah, I'm excited for what this Broncos offense is going to look like. Bo Nix coming back healthy, would have loved to seeing what that offense would have done against the Patriots. Maybe it would have been the Broncos in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? If they didn't have Jarrett Stidham, they had Bo Nix healthy. So yeah, this offense might be one of the best offenses in the league in 2026.
Yep, I agree with DP. Let's keep at it, and let's keep bringing up these prospect pairings, NFL teams from the 2026 NFL draft. Let's continue some discussions. I'm gonna bring up some late round guys, some late round sleepers. Discuss that coming up next.
We can stream anything, order food in minutes, do everything from our phones, and somehow buying tickets to live events still feels harder than it should be. Long lines, confusing checkout prices, jumping at the last second. It shouldn't be this difficult or complicated. And that's why there is Game Time. It gives fans the advantage and makes getting tickets fast and simple. You could see the full prices up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And guys, I promise you, the seat views are huge. You can check your exact view before you purchase or buy your tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of live event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Again, guys, download the Game Time app today. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Perfect prospected team pairings. We can close the show out. Keith, you said you got some late round guys you wanted to get into. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, go to the Tampa Bay Bucks, DP, and we've talked about how much we've liked the Tampa Bay Bucks draft, right? With the Reuben Bain, Josiah Trotter, Ted Hurst, Keontae Scott, which I think could be one of the steals of the draft, the Monte Capar, Billy Schroth. Their last pick, though, DP, Bauer Sharp out of LSU. This is a young man that was at Oklahoma previous to transferring, and we always talk about that LSU Clemson situation, right? All of those players suffered some because of this situation. Watching Bauer at Oklahoma, DP, I believe I gave him a late third, high fourth round pick. I think he can be an interesting piece as far as a tight end, where you're talking about a tight end 1, tight end 2 type of conversation, I thought he had flexibility. I thought he can, do the H-back, he can do the flex, you can line him up in slot. There were a lot of different things, and I can see why LSU went and got him if you go back and watch his Oklahoma film. So watching him, can he potentially carve out a role for himself as an athletic movement piece tight end, that the offensive coordinator can find a way to get the ball in his hands? Now, listen, being a 6th-round pick, you're not going to walk in a training camp and demand plays, right? You're going to have to work at it. But can he be somebody I see week 7 of the season, week 8, week 9, week 10, that people are starting to say, wait, hold on, who is this guy, right? Or he's starting to play a more and more important, vital part of this Tampa Bay Bucs offense. So I look at Bauer Sharp, tight end from LSU, 6th-round pick. I had a higher grade on him, and I think this could be a really good situation because he's going to a high-volume offense, right? Baker Mayfield can throw the football, and that's part of, if you're a rookie, it's like, okay, go high and go to a bad quarterback, or do I go somewhere where I can get the football, right? Like, because you got to have that conversation because you're still thinking about the second contract, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
I like Bauer Sharp.
Yeah, and I think they need to change up at tight end, right? That's why we kept mocking Kenyon Sadiq there, because it made a lot of sense. I'm like, okay, you have Cade Otton, who's more of the blocking type of tight end and everything, but you need that change of pace, that change of Bauer Sharp could end up being just that, Keith. I'm gonna go to the NFC North, and I'm gonna go to the Detroit Lions, and I got to talk. We talked about him a little bit, but I want to go in depth. Derrick Moore to the Detroit Lions, and Keith. What was the 2nd round? I think he came off the board, and we've been talking about the field. We actually been talking about him. I mean, hey, we got to pat ourselves on the back. We talked to him, and even going back when he was at Stanford, David Bailey over the last for 2 years ago. We started talking about both of these guys 2 years ago. And Derrick Moore, we thought he was going to come out last year and go to the draft. He said, "No, I'm gonna go back to school." And him going back, becoming a top 50 pick, he was drafted 44th overall to the Detroit Lions. Derrick Moore, speed to power, physicality, grit, toughness, run defense, that long arm, collapse in the pocket, just a physical mindset and mentality. This is a culture fit for the Detroit Lions. And this is a guy that you went back, you already hit a home run. I mean, a home run. Aidan Hutchinson was a grand slam for you, right? So because some people will still say, hey, he should have been the 1st overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, the Jaguars don't really care. They just paid Trayvon Walker. They feel very comfortable with his versatility and everything else because he rushes inside and out. You're not really getting that to that same versatility from a guy like Aidan Hutchinson. He's more so truly off the edge, but he's been a home run for them, a grand slam for the Detroit Lions. Well, you already did that, and had such success going to that well once. They went back to it again. So you know what? If nobody else is going to take him this high, we'll take him. And pairing those two guys together, the Michigan lineage and bloodline and pedigree, but then also very similar in terms of speed to power, just outstanding motors, the way that they play and attack offensive linemen. Of course, I think you look at, Aidan, he's got more in his bag, more dip bend, dip rip, more hand usage and things like that. You can coach that stuff up into Derrick Moore. He just wants to run through somebody's face mask. And honestly, he does it very well. So I think this is a perfect pairing because, again, looking at your division, I always say this, Keith, you don't draft to win a Super Bowl, just to win a Super Bowl. You draft to win your division because if you don't win your division, you don't have a strong chance of getting to the postseason. So you draft to win your division. In your division, you got Jordan Love, you have Caleb Williams, and now you got Kyler Murray. Talk about for Kyler Murray having to deal with those two edge rushers, keeping him in the pocket, and they're able to play good coverage in the back end, right? And things of that nature. Jordan Love having to deal with, hey, if we slide protection to Aidan, freaking Derrick Moore can come off the edge at any moment and have a 3-sack game. I'm going to tell you what this reminds me of, Keith. It reminds me of what the Pittsburgh Steelers were able to do. We had TJ Watt. Let's go get Alex Highsmith, who people slept on, and they became one of the best pass rushing duos in the NFL, right? To where at one year, I believe it was that Alex Highsmith was had more double teams during the season than TJ Watt had. Teams were double teaming Alex and leaving TJ Watt 1-on-1, which is crazy to think about, right? So that's what this situation to me for the Detroit Lions feels like. You got the potential to have one of the best pass rushing duos in the league if Derrick Moore is able to truly step in and come complement Aidan Hutchinson.
Yeah, I remember. I think that was my first year with the Draft Network, and we were doing the NFL, going through the teams. I'm like, wait, who is this Alex Highsmith guy? Oh, and I think that was the year before he actually blew up. Like, I think he took off national. I'm like, I think that guy on the other side is pretty doggone good too. He just keeps making plays every time I watch the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, I agree with you with that. And I think that's an interesting. I think too, DP. I'm excited for the competitiveness because Derrick Moore gives me that he's competitive too. Like they're teammates, and I think they're obviously gonna have each other back, but I think it's gonna be a race to the quarterback. Like, hey, who wants the most sacks, right? And that's what you want, right? You want my edge rusher to be like, nah, I'm gonna beat you, right? Like I want the sack. So I think you talk about Derrick Moore, Cassius Howell, so many of those guys that went in the second round as far as edge rushers, somebody like those guys have Pro Bowl potential, right? Like there was a reason why we talked about those guys in the first round, especially Derrick Moore. We was like, hey, they did it with Aidan Hutchinson, draft the Michigan edge rusher, right? Drafted him, and it worked. They're going to do it again. Now, they didn't do it in the first round. They did it in the second round. DP, I'm going to wrap real quick with this. I told you I'm bringing up late round guys. Guy you talked about a while ago on this show, make sure I get this name right. 7th round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Eli Heidenreich.
Heidenreich,
Heidenreich. Okay, I got that right. Running back out of Navy. The Steelers need this. They need some like I don't want to call a 7th rounder X factor, but they need a mismatch guy, right? And he can do that, coming out of the backfield, running routes, catching the football. They need something different, right? In the past, Najee Harris kind of did it. Jaylen Warren, was solid, right? But they need a guy that can just provide some versatility. Like they need to be able to create points, right? And that's why they traded for a Micah Pittman, right? Bringing in DK Metcalf the year before. They identified like we need some juice. We need something to where we can start scaring opponents. But this offense didn't scare opponents, and the backfield didn't scare opponents. Now it could have been decent and solid, but this young man, I feel like if it hits, right? And especially with Aaron Rodgers, who can be an accurate quarterback, you getting them on them angle routes, those Texas routes, you potentially motion them out of the backfield, let them run whip routes against linebackers. You can create some mismatches. So I like that situation too in the 7th round, because I think for the Pittsburgh Steelers, it wasn't just a 7th round pick. This can mean so much more to y'all because y'all need so much more offensively, right? Like y'all need a lot. So
I'm glad you brought him up, Keith, and shouted him out, because I think I want our Locked On listeners to understand. When you turn on the tape and watch Navy, he played wide receiver a ton, actual receiver. You see the routes and everything else. When I first brought him up, I said, listen, I'm not going to do it to him, but I know, and I saw people during the draft, late in the draft season doing it. They mentioned the CMC. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but of course he's white. And he run routes out of the backfield and can line up and run actual receiver routes. The movement skills do parallel. You like, man, like, if you just kind of blind watch, like you take off, you just put a helmet and like just no name pads on, like, all right, is that Christian McCaffrey running routes? Like, you might get confused, you know what I mean? But McCaffrey's just a much different athlete, I think, and just natural runner. So I'm excited to see what that looks like, because And then they brought in Aidan Hutchinson, so you could have 2 dynamic returners as well, and 2 guys that can work into the slot and give you a lot of yards after catch, yak ability, things like that. I really want to see what Mike McCarthy do with him in terms of kind of utilizing him. Is he your Randall Cobb that plays receiver and line up in the backfield and do all these different things? I'm excited for it, because number one, I mean, at Navy, one of the things that was tough is that he didn't get a lot of true running back touches. It was like jet sweeps, and because you run that triple option and things like that, because that's just how those military schools operate. I'm excited to see him kind of develop as an actual running back and everything. But Keith, he might end up being a true receiver for him before it's all said and done with, where you're like, you know what? We got him, Jeremy Bernard, Aidan Hutchinson. We might be all right.
Yep, I agree with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast all by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, go if you're listening to audio, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. You know what I mean? Hit the automatic downloads. Leave us a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like, hit the like button, comment, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so you are always notified whenever we drop content on the channel. Or like I said, same thing on the audio side. Guys, coming up next week, we're getting into our NFL rookie grading series. Right, we're looking at some of the top rookies from last year. Cam Ward, Jackson Dart. We're going to probably start the week off with those two, the top 2 quarterbacks from last year's draft. Get into Shedeur Sanders. We're going to take them through our scouting process. Same thing we do with prospects. We're going to watch the film, talk about the pros and what they did well, what they didn't do well, the concerns and where they can grow, and then give you our actual grade for them. So, guys, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.